We're live.
Okay, Crimson and Blue Chips family. I know it has not been very long since we were on together, but obviously the conversion from Championship Saturday to Selection Sunday is not a long one. It's a quick turnaround, and that's great for us because we can jump back on and talk about the immediacy of all of the debate all year long. It ends basically in the next few minutes, so we're going to have the broadcast on ESPN on in the background. So forgive us for a little bit of noise, but we're going to find out Alabama's fate together. We know the Crimson Tide will be number one, but who will they play? That's really been the focus of the conversation since the game ended. Will Georgia sneak in? Is it Notre Dame? Is it Oklahoma? Is it Ohio State? Something we're not even considering right now. Could it be another team? That's what we're going to find out together, and we're going to jump in immediately and start breaking down the ramifications of the game. So, again, we'll have some noise on in the background, but producer Kev is here. Yours truly is here, and we're going to find out and hang out together, find out who Alabama may face December 29th, I believe it is. So 27 days from today, 4 weeks from yesterday, where obviously Alabama can heal up a little bit, whether it's Tua, maybe Terrell Hall, Trevon Diggs, Deontay Brown, guys who are banged up. Maybe some of them return, maybe all of them return. I'm not 100% sure. But obviously this will be something that everybody looks forward to as another college football playoff rolls in. Producer Kev, real quick, in the redundancy department for me and you, a couple of firsts are going to happen today. Alabama will be the only team to be in every college football playoff. That's a guarantee. But it looks like Kev, and if y'all don't know, Kev does uniform rankings. He keeps up with all this stuff. It looks like our first non-Nike school will finally make the college football playoff.
Yeah, I think Under Armour's finally gonna slip one in there. It's gonna be weird, and it's gonna break the conspiracy theory of Nike wants just Nike schools in the college football playoff. No, I think it'll be weird to see because all we've ever seen is the what is it? They do the diamond Nike swooshes and stuff like that
Oh
for.
yeah, Nike just goes all in because they're like, well, we have all four teams, so let's
We
go
have
ahead
all
and
four,
run
so
it.
might as well just. I think you'll probably see a.
We're talking about Notre Dame, by the way.
Yeah, Notre Dame.
I'll
Sorry.
lead into that, Kev. Yeah.
I'm sure Under Armour will come up with something good for him as far as for the playoffs. There hasn't really been except for when Oregon got in, there hasn't really been a flashy playoff uniforms. Anybody hasn't really worn anything flashy except for Oregon wore the all white and the candy apple green when they played Florida State.
That's right. That was the Jameis throwing the ball to nobody game.
Yeah, that was
That was murder.
Yeah, so they wore the candy apple greens, and so that was about the only big flash you've gotten from college football playoffs, except the little diamond Nike swoop.
So does Notre Dame go funky with it, or do they go conventional Notre Dame? Since
I think they'll probably go traditional Notre Dame. You'll probably, depending on, well, if they get in, they'll be either the 3 or the 4 seed, so they'll be the lower of the 2 seeds, so they'll be the away team. So is Notre Dame a school? Does Notre Dame wear white at home or no? No, they wear blue at home.
They wear that classic blue.
Yeah, the blue and gold. So you'll probably see a white and gold with the classic gold helmet because they'll be the away team because they'll be the lower.
Right. Yeah. So for those joining us, we're just going to hang out today. Nothing formal. We're just literally going to be on live as the college football playoff Final Four is revealed. The expectation is for that Final Four to be revealed closer to 12:30 Eastern. 12:10 right now Eastern, 11:10 Central Time. So we do have a couple of minutes in between. So we're going to have fun with some build up. Kind of look back a little bit more at yesterday, which even a day later, even having slept on it, is still among the most improbable things and most talked about things we will see from this college football season, almost no matter what happens in the playoff itself. So curious. I'm wondering what the coaches' influence have, because the coaches' poll came out today, and the coaches' poll has Oklahoma in the 4th spot. For anybody curious about what that could mean, I don't think the committee really looks at that a ton, but you wonder if things get super close, if something like that could matter. So the final coaches poll of the pre-bowl season has been released. Alabama, of course, number 1. Clemson, a steady number 2. Notre Dame maintains its number 3 spot. Oklahoma with that 4th spot. So if the coaches had their say, Alabama, Oklahoma in Dallas, December 29th, which is interesting because Bama is the higher seed, and we'll get into this later if that becomes the matchup. Bama the higher seed, but Oklahoma just played in that building yesterday. And Kyler Murray is
Murray's undefeated in that building.
State championships, conference championships in college. That would be quite a unique scenario for the bowl committee to put the number 1 seed at a disadvantage locationally based off of the opponent. Will that matter? Probably not. Will Bama complain? I don't think so, but it's just interesting. We hadn't seen anything like that. It's as if Miami would get into the college football playoff and be the road team at Hard Rock Stadium, a stadium that they obviously play in and are very familiar with. So I don't know if we've seen anything quite like that. I guess it would be like LSU playing in New Orleans, something similar there. Heck, Alabama, Georgia played in Atlanta for it all last year, and that was surely an advantage for Georgia, but that was the final. So they didn't really have a say in terms of the seeding there going into that matchup. So in this light, Alabama, Oklahoma would be pit against one another in Oklahoma's backyard, even though they are 3 seeds lower than number 1 Alabama.
There you go, John. They just hypothetical lines on a neutral field.
There we go.
Georgia, Oklahoma, Georgia minus 3.5. Georgia, Ohio State, Georgia minus 6.5. Oklahoma, Ohio State, Oklahoma minus 2.5. So Georgia would be favored in games versus Oklahoma and Ohio State. So,
and that's shouldn't that be the most simple criteria? Shouldn't that be where it begins? If it's just the best 4 teams, line them up, and who would you favor against the others? Could it be that simple? It should be, but I don't think many people are expecting Georgia to be that 4th spot. Although I would want that. Who wouldn't want to see this rematch?
Yeah, I think you get some good ratings out of it, and I would really like to see it, but I just don't think that. I don't think the committee's too. Like we've said, the committee is too worried about the resume. They
scared, man. They scared.
They're gonna see the Georgia 2 loss, and it's just gonna be an automatic. It's gonna be an automatic disqualifier, in my opinion, which is sad because I think the rematch would be a much better game than whatever game you're gonna get. Whether it's Notre Dame, Oklahoma, whoever gets in, the rematch Georgia-Alabama would be a better game.
Yeah, we mentioned the coaches poll earlier. The brand new coaches poll released this morning. Again, Oklahoma 4, so that's why we're talking about Georgia not being in that spot. Ohio State was over Georgia as well in the coaches poll. Ohio State was the 5th spot, Georgia 6th, UCF 7th. So that's where the coaches envision this thing. Bama 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame 3, Oklahoma 4, Ohio State 5, Georgia 6, UCF 7. So, hey, maybe the College Football Playoff Committee just goes super crazy and they throw UCF in there. How crazy would that get? Without their quarterback, without Mackenzie Milton, that would be that'd be something kind of wild. Real quick, breaking news, random breaking news from the Alabama football of yesteryear department, former offensive coordinator and Florida Gators head coach Jim McElwain, now the head coach at Central Michigan. So Jimmy Mack goes from Alabama OC to Florida head coach to Michigan. What was he coaching? Wide receivers out there?
Yeah.
And now he's the Central Michigan head football coach. So Jim McElwain back on the – actually he went from Bama OC to Colorado State head coach.
Yeah,
I skipped one there. So he's – how many people have been head coaches of 3 schools in the last, 5 years? That's a lot. That's a lot of moving for Jim McElwain from –
Where was he this year? Was he an analyst anywhere?
He was the Michigan receivers coach.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I believe. I'm going to look that up.
He was on staff at Michigan. I know that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah,
now
he was the
Central.
on-field receivers coach for UM. So he was
Now he's the
coaching up
Central Michigan.
Peoples Jones and Nico Collins, those guys.
Bro, you go from Michigan receivers coach to now a head coach. Good Lord, that's a jump right there.
Yeah, I mean, good for
But I
him.
mean, if you're
Good for
Central
him.
Michigan, what do you have? I mean, what do you have to lose as Central Michigan?
Yeah, that and Jim McElwain must be a hell of an interviewee. I mean, he must crush every interview because he falls up a lot, and that's big for him. That's big for him.
Like he slipped and fell into that Florida job, to be honest.
More wins next year, less miles at Kansas. Jim McElwain at Central Michigan. Go.
Les Miles at Kansas. Let's go.
Rock
Chalk Jayhawks, son.
Beautiful. Yeah. So again, guys, we're just hanging out today. As you could tell, we're a little loose, a little tired. We both had long weekends up until this point, but this is why we do it. We do it for you guys. So if you're new to the program, please subscribe. We're much more formal than this typically, but we're just hanging out, waiting for the college football playoff to be revealed. We're about 10 minutes away or so, according to ESPN, who can tease this however long they want because they have the exclusive rights.
Because they're ESPN and they don't care about people.
Yeah. There's plenty of drama today with these three teams: Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State. Again, is it the four best teams? Or is it the most deserving or best resume? It's like the college basketball tournament, the NCAA tournament. March
and
Madness.
I like how they've only shown people in team meeting rooms of the three teams that are like locks. Like they've only shown Marty Smith in the Ohio State building. They've only shown what's her name in the Georgia building. They've only shown the other person in the Oklahoma building. They won't show them in the team meeting rooms because, God, that would be an amazing shot of whoever doesn't get in.
Just that reaction. They start throwing stuff and cursing, and they're just beeping everywhere. That'd be great.
Yeah, this is one of the. It's going to be interesting. I think that. I just feel like Oklahoma. I feel like it's going to be Oklahoma. They lost at the right time. You know, we talk about losing at the right time, right. And then they avenged
it, right?
And they didn't get blown out by Purdue.
Yeah, that helps.
So,
and the Georgia loss to LSU. You know,
they didn't lose by 20 to LSU.
It just looks worse and worse. I mean, it's even you wonder, you know, perceptionally, what if LSU had blown out A&M to end their regular season? And now LSU is just a two-loss team, with one of those being to Alabama. You wonder could it be that simple? Could that be the margin for Georgia, that, you know, you lost to a two-loss LSU team who got beat by Bama and Florida, respectable opponents, obviously, in conference. But that A&M loss, that crazy overtime game where both teams, what was it, 70-something to 60-something?
74-72.
Yeah, like what was that?
2.5-point Vegas spread.
Yeah, because Vegas. Without that game, could that be something that pushes Georgia in? Because now your loss to LSU is a two-loss LSU team that is a top 10 team without a doubt. You know, You wonder if that is something that would have been considered a little bit more, which is crazy. And that's what happens in Selection Sunday with college basketball. We get into the who'd you lose to, how bad of a loss is this?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna turn this up a little bit because they're getting a little bit closer. Again, ESPN is teasing 12:30 Eastern as the time that they want to reveal the bracket. Alabama will be 1, Clemson will be 2, and I think the debate begins thereafter, setting up the Clemson-Bama showdown in the Natty that most of us want to see. But the debate will begin at that point. Could Notre Dame move down, Kev? Notre Dame did not play a conference championship game, and their preseason strength of schedule versus what they actually got as the season progressed took a big dip. USC, Stanford, Florida State, a lot of their opponents basically dropped the ball this year, preseason versus what they actually were when the games occurred. So without a conference championship game and really without a very good schedule, solid schedule, not a great schedule, should that drop Notre Dame down to 4, which Brian Kelly has basically already stated he doesn't want to do because he don't want to deal with Bama. I believe earlier this year, he was interviewed and asked about that 2012 national championship game destruction by Alabama. Eddie Lacy spinning, T.J. Yeldon running, A.J. McCarron, the whole crew. And they were asked, hey, do you want a rematch? Do you want another shot at Bama? Everyone holds the "We Want Bama" signs. Do you, in fact, want Bama? And Brian Kelly's words were, quote, "Be careful what you wish for." Brian Kelly does not want to see Bama. He does not want that smoke in Dallas in the college football playoff semifinals. So does the committee weigh anything like that? Potentially. Does Oklahoma or Ohio State, anybody move up to 3 beyond Notre Dame? Because again, Kev, if we go back to the who would be favored against who, Notre Dame wouldn't be favored, I don't think, against anybody else in consideration for the college football playoff. Maybe Ohio State, but I don't think Notre Dame's favored against Clemson, Bama, Georgia, Oklahoma on a neutral field. So how do you weigh that if you're coming up with the 4 best teams in order? And I think that's the key. The argument of someone getting in versus the seeding are two different things. They're doing this thing in order. 4 best teams in order. So how is Notre Dame's argument for 3 versus 4? Where do you see that ending up?
I think that if we're gonna look at it that way, let me switch over. I was looking at Notre Dame stats here. So I think that if we're gonna look at it that way, and we're gonna see do they deserve it? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they have 4. They have 4 wins over top 25 teams that were ranked top 25 at the time they played.
4.
They have 4, yeah. One top 10.
Was that Michigan?
That was Stanford.
Okay, Stanford. Michigan week 1 was still probably their best win.
Yeah, Michigan week 1,
which is lessened because of how bad Ohio State blew out Michigan, which is another team in this conversation.
Michigan week 1 was ranked 14th when they played, and they won 24-17. And then they played Ball State, they played Vandy, Wake Forest. Then they traveled to 2 7th-ranked Stanford. They beat Stanford. They beat 24th-ranked Virginia Tech. Then they beat 12th-ranked Syracuse. So
yeah, they did blow them out.
Yeah, I mean they're averaging. Let's see, averaging 34 a game, and then allowing 17 on defense. So I think so they have 4 against top 25 teams, and then let's look at I'll pull up the resumes for Oklahoma. Well, I mean Oklahoma, we kind of know that one. The Big 12 is obviously Oklahoma. Obviously everybody's gonna pull Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference and blah, blah, blah. Well, Notre Dame, if you don't know, Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference because Notre Dame makes way more money as an independent than they would in a conference. So,
yeah, right.
I mean, that's just the nature of the beast there. Okay, okay, 1, 2. Oklahoma has 2 top 25 victories. 2.
What was that? West Virginia?
West Virginia and Texas.
Which is an avenged game. So I think that definitely gives them more brownie points because their only loss was avenged convincingly yesterday with their bad unit, their defense looking a little better, although Texas's offense is not great outside of the Big 12. Let's put that in perspective as well. Although Texas put up nearly 50 against Oklahoma the first time. So it's it's kind of odd. So we're just about 5 minutes away from this reveal, guys. Real quick, we're going through Oklahoma, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame. basically all of the potential matchups for Alabama, which is, of course, the bread and butter of what we do here at Crimson and Blue Chips. In case you're new to the show, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the bell to get notifications when we go live, and we've gone live twice in the last 15 hours or so. We did ask a poll this morning on Crimson and Blue Chips on Twitter at CABC Pod, which is the same we asked last night and which one we just asked now in the live chat here. We asked, who do you want to see Alabama play in the College Football Playoff Semifinal? Not who you think the committee is going to put in, but who do you want? Who is in the fantasy draft of teams in the mix here out of these top 6 or 7? Who do you want to see Bama play? And the last night answer is the same as this morning's answer. It's Notre Dame. Almost 100 votes in on the Twitter poll. Notre Dame is edging Oklahoma in the poll there. And I think it's two different questions. Who do you want to see versus who you think Bama will play? I want to see Bama Georgia rematch. Just roll the dice again, piss off everybody who doesn't like the SEC and basically have another classic. We're getting a little bit closer here. I want to see Georgia. I think it'll be Oklahoma.
And
I fans they want to see Notre Dame. So I'm curious to see, Kev, who you want to see Bama play, who you think Bama's going to play.
I would also like to see the Georgia rematch. And then now that I've pulled it up and we're talking about resumes, we're talking about who we obviously the college football playoff is very resume based, very resume heavy. So if you're going to talk about resumes, I just said Oklahoma has 2 top 25 wins. They got taken to overtime by Army, but Ohio State has 5. TCU, Michigan State, Penn State, Michigan, Northwestern, all top 25 wins.
Sheesh.
So,
and the best win of anybody not named Bama this year, right?
Over number 4 Michigan.
Right. That's the best win, and it was a rout.
And over number 9 at the time, Penn State.
Right. That's the one everyone forgets about. And that was a big comeback. So.
Yeah. So I don't know. Now that I've looked at it, that's interesting to see.
Like as you talk it out, right?
Yeah, like as we talk it out, and as we're talking about how resume based the committee is. If you're going off resume, yes, they have the 29-point loss to Purdue, but they also have 2 top 10 victories and 5 top 25 victories. So.
Right.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be somebody. Obviously, somebody's not going to get in that thinks they're going to get in. So.
Yeah, you were talking about people having watch parties, the teams having watch parties. Georgia will not be having a watch party. So the team is not gathered watching this thing. So I think that tells you about all you need to know about their chances. Typically, the teams that have a shot and feel like it, they'll gather. But Kirby has made another call that will draw some controversy there. So
I felt like Kirby was a little big mad last night.
A little bit.
I felt like he was a little in his feelings too much last night. Now that I actually went back and listened to the press conference and everything, I felt like he was a little in his feelings, but.
Right. So we're just about a minute or two away from the reveal. Again, the College Football Playoff seedings will come out now in the next little bit, and we are going to pretty much jump into it and end all the speculation, which will be nice, and jump into Alabama's opponent. Oklahoma is probably the consensus favorite to land that 4th spot, but potentially Notre Dame slides down. Ohio State, Georgia, kind of the dark horses there as well. Greg McElroy last night, I saw, the former Alabama quarterback, said Ohio State was his 4th team. For whatever that's worth, some Bama fans will tell you that since he left, Greg McElroy is not on Bama's side, but he believes Ohio State is that 4th team. I think that game would be an advantageous one for Alabama. Really, all of these matchups, Alabama will be a heavy favorite, unless it's Georgia. I think they would be a slight favorite there. So we're going to crank the volume up here on my television as we get the college football playoff seedings 1, 2, 3, and 4 to be revealed. Of course, ESPN is going to have some Tom Rinaldi build-up here before we actually get it, following multiple commercials. But we are seemingly just moments away from finding out who in the world Bama's going to play. Pretty big difference from last year when everyone was wondering if Bama was even going to be in. So a nice, I guess, aside from that feeling last year, at least on this program where everything is predicated on Alabama football. So cool that we're not going to have to do I can't believe they screwed Bama show, because I don't want to do that. Yeah. All right, Kev, last call. Who you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, go.
Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Notre Dame should slide down, but I think the committee, it's Notre Dame. They're going to leave them at 3.
They're going to leave them there.
They don't want to see a bloodbath.
Yeah, so. I think it's been so long since, it's been a while since they've been relevant. And I think that's a good matchup. That Clemson Notre Dame, I think that's a pretty good matchup.
Right. I agree. I'll take Clemson.
It'll pull ratings. And we all know the NCAA is all about their money. So
right.
Where's that one? Where's that game at too? Where's the one of them?
It's in Miami.
It's in Miami. So both teams will be.
Alabama officially number 1 according to the ESPN broadcast, to the shock and surprise of no one. Alabama number 1 at 13-0. Here we go. Cranking the volume up.
You're ahead of me. Dang it.
Well, you'll find out with me then, Kev.
Yep. I'm way behind.
Clemson number 2. Clemson Tigers number 2. So Bama and Clemson 1 and 2. 2 best teams all year, in my opinion. 2 best quarterbacks. Lord, football gods, make that matchup happen, please. Thank you.
At least they're on opposite sides.
Clemson is having a watch party, a pizza party. Dabo style.
All the families were there too.
Yep. Yeah, they're not even excited. They're like, yeah, we're number 2. We get it. Like, let me eat this pepperoni right quick.
Mine's just now announcing Alabama.
Well, too bad for you. Here we go. Clemson's opponent will be. Let's go, Reese. Notre Dame number 3. Clemson, Notre Dame in Miami, December 29th.
So whoever gets in is moving up or staying put.
Right. 1, 2, 3 stayed put. So we'll see if Oklahoma, who won its conference title and avenged its loss to Texas, maintains their number 4 spot, which logic will tell you. Notre Dame number 3, Clemson number 2 in Miami. Alabama waiting on its opponent in Dallas, December 29th. And ESPN is going to tease the crap out of this once again. Like, what is this, College Game Day? They're setting up the live shot.
Commercial break.
Yeah, I know, right? Another commercial break. They're not going to commercial, but they are reposting the resumes between Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. But if Oklahoma was number 4 last week and won their conference title against the only team to beat them this year, logic tells you that they're going to hold on to this number 4 spot. But it is not official, at least as of this moment. So we're going to play the waiting game just a little bit longer. I think it'll be Oklahoma here. I would love to see Georgia, but I think it'll be Oklahoma. I don't think Ohio State has a shot. As time goes on, I don't think Ohio State has a shot. I just think the resume is great in all the non-Purdue stuff, but that Purdue loss is I think, just too much. Waiting on number 4. If y'all get it in the chat first, go ahead. Jackie White says it's Oklahoma. And it is indeed Oklahoma, number 4. Bama, Oklahoma. Tua versus Kyler Murray. Alabama, Oklahoma in Dallas. So that makes things more interesting. I'm shutting off ESPN. That makes things so much more interesting. Alabama, Oklahoma in Dallas. So that's amazing. That is amazing to consider.
They're all about the ratings, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Oklahoma's going to travel well to Texas. Everybody wants to see Kyler Tua because they want to debate who wins the Heisman, but the Heisman will already be done at that point.
Yeah, the Heisman's next Saturday, and usually the Heisman winner doesn't fare too well in his bowl game. So
Bama
I think you get Kyler the Heisman, Tua the ticket to the College Football Playoff National Championship. All right, Kev, the floor is yours. Bama, Oklahoma, most likely in Dallas. I guess they could do something else if they wanted to and switch it up. But Who you got? What do you think initially? Tua versus Kyler.
My initial reactions are I think that there will be a lot of points scored. I think that depending on how healthy both teams are, because we've seen both teams lose key players in their respective championship games. Oklahoma lost Hollywood Brown in their game. Tua wasn't able to finish in the SEC championship game. So I think that health will be a issue. We'll see where everybody is. See if Deontay Brown's healthy again. See if the couple O linemen from Oklahoma are healthy. And initially, I think that there'll be a good number of points scored because that Oklahoma defense is trash. The Oklahoma offense is very high powered. Mobile quarterbacks give Alabama trouble, and there's no better mobile quarterback in the country right now than Kyler Murray.
No doubt.
And I do think that it'll be a good one. I think Alabama comes out on top without seeing a spread right now. I don't know if they'll cover or not, but I think Alabama wins in my initial looking at it.
Yeah, interestingly enough, real quick before we dive deeper into that, Georgia, number 5. So Georgia slid from 4 to 5 for losing
above Ohio State. That Purdue
Ohio
loss
State.
really hurt them. Yeah.
Right, the Purdue loss buried Ohio State. That's basically 1,000% confirmed at this point. And look, should the other side of the Big Ten have gone a different way and Wisconsin rolled into that thing 11-1 or something, maybe it could have been enough to push Ohio State up, but it was Northwestern, no disrespect to the Wildcats. And they made it a game. Northwestern made it a game. So I don't think there was any shot at that point for Ohio State. But Oklahoma stays at 4. Georgia down to 5 following their heartbreak part 2 against Alabama. So now I predict Georgia gets blasted in their New Year's 6 game, Alabama style, like the last time Alabama played Oklahoma. Ironically enough, what was that? The Sugar Bowl. After the kick 6 game, Bama just seemed like it didn't care. Nick Saban teams when not everything is on the line don't typically perform well during bowl season. But luckily for all of you, Bama is in, and it means everything. Bama is number 1, Oklahoma number 4. My thoughts here, obviously Kyler Murray is a problem. There's no doubt about it. This is the most athletic quarterback Alabama would have faced in several years. He's more athletic than Deshaun Watson. He is quicker than Johnny Manziel. Now, in terms of quarterbacking and throwing the football, there are some similarities in other guys Bama has faced. I'm not ready to say Kyler Murray is a better college quarterback than Deshaun Watson in terms of the total package, but just athletically and the rate of his release, I do think he is better than Deshaun Watson. And obviously we know what type of problems Deshaun gave Alabama really in both of those games, going 1-1 against the Crimson Tide. So that's really where the focus begins for Alabama. But as we always say, that defense, Bama's going to be able to do whatever it wants offensively, with or without Tua. So I just don't see a way that Oklahoma can match that. You do envision Alabama with a month to prepare, scheming up something to put Kyler Murray in a box. And again, that shifts the perception to the secondary, the back 7. How can Bama line up with these wide receivers and tight ends? Well, Hollywood Brown might not be playing for Oklahoma. We don't know yet. Waiting on the final confirmation of his injury. He was carted off in the game against Texas yesterday. He's their best receiver. He is their explosive Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle type guy, for those who aren't familiar with Oklahoma. And Bama's secondary has been very good against the pass, including yesterday, by the way. Yes, Jake Fromm threw for 300 yards, but he earned every one of those yards, and he usually maximized the middle of the field against Alabama, which is where I do think Oklahoma has a nice advantage. And those are the guys you start worrying about when you're talking about Kyler Murray on the move and his weapons over the middle. Tyler Calcaterra, the tight end, you saw him catch the one-headed game winner against Texas. That's the matchup, I think, initially, that if there's going to be a point of concern, that's where it should be. Jake Fromm utilized Isaac Nada very well yesterday against Alabama. He split cover 2 at one point. He audibled and went underneath and beat man coverage as well. So zone and man, Bama had problems against the tight end. And no disrespect to Isaac Nada, but he's not Tyler Calcaterra in any sense of the phrase. Nada's probably 6'1", 6'2", 230. Calcaterra's like 6'6". He's a conventional big-time NFL-looking tight end. He looks like a Stanford tight end. And obviously, he ripped apart Texas yesterday as Oklahoma punched its ticket to the college football playoff. That's the matchup with those Alabama linebackers and the safeties who have been good in zone coverage, have not been as good man-to-man, and they'll both be outsized by Tyler. That's the matchup I think that you initially focus on, especially if Hollywood Brown isn't out there. CeeDee Lamb's a good receiver, but he's more of a slender Devontae Smith type of guy. Doesn't have that raw power and explosion that Marquise Hollywood Brown has. So I do think there's an advantage built in there for Alabama. But the Kyler Murray, Trey Sermon combo in the backfield, he's the big running back, SEC-style running back, kid from Atlanta, actually. That matchup with their offensive line and the tight end, I think, is where you do have some concern for Alabama. But the timing here, Bama can get healthy. Terrell Hall could potentially be back. Hey, Trevon Diggs, we don't know. Trevon Diggs might even be able to participate in some capacity in the game. Other guys who are banged up on both sides of the ball will have the potential to heal up, not only Tua Tagovailoa, but Deontay Brown and others. So I do think with the timing here, if the game was next Saturday versus December 29th, I think it would be a lot more worrisome for Alabama. But with the time in between, I think Alabama will have plenty of time to adjust and try to scheme up a plan to keep Kyler Murray in the box. Because like I said, he is the most explosive and athletic quarterback that Alabama has faced in 5+ years. I would put the fear of Kyler Murray above that of Johnny Manziel as an athlete. As a quarterback, he's not quite Deshaun Watson, but he's in that ballpark. And that's obviously something to be concerned about if you are Alabama. Would love to hear from the fans what you guys are thinking about with this game. The point totals, the worry of Kyler Murray, and heck, Oklahoma's defense. They played their best game yesterday. Again, Texas's offense isn't Alabama's. Alabama's is much more explosive, certainly, but they are playing in the right direction, having moved on from Stoops and now going with Ruffin McNeil as the defensive coordinator. The all former ECU coaching staff, Kev. Lincoln Riley as the head coach, Ruffin McNeil as the defensive coordinator for Oklahoma. I guess, Kev, the next part of the conversation is Jalen and Tua. Not a controversy, but health, availability. Both guys are not 100%. Nick has already said he doesn't think Tua will be held out very long. You would think with 27 days in between now and that game, he would have the opportunity to be back. But you wonder, how is the allotment of reps going to go down? And then, as I said yesterday, you start to wonder, as these head coaches are starting to be named at their new institutions, what of Mike Locksley and what of the dynamic with Josh Gaddis and Dan Enos? How does it shift? Who becomes the primary play caller, the primary guy to sit down and construct an offensive game plan? Those things will be drawn into interest as well, because we all remember a couple of years ago, the transition from Kiffin to Sarkisian was a rough one. So how did it look this time around? How important is Dan Enos? How important is Josh Gaddis? I think that becomes another storyline. The quarterback's health and the coaching staff under Nick Saban. Heck, it might not be just Locksley. Who else could potentially be poached from this coaching staff? This is something Alabama would have to deal with every single year. None as bad as last year, but that could come up beyond Mike Locksley potentially this year if somebody wants to take a run at Tosh Lupoy, if somebody wants to take a run at a Josh Gaddis, who I have seen on a couple of coaching boards as a dark horse head coaching candidate or an OC candidate elsewhere. So you have to wonder how all of those things will factor in, because nobody's pulling to try to get any Oklahoma assistance that I am aware of. So that will be another advantage potentially for the Sooners. Kev, the whole Jalen Tua health thing, what do you think? Is there any chance Jalen Hurts starts this game?
I don't think so if Tua's healthy. it's all going to depend on that and depend on the severity of whatever it is that officially is wrong with Tua. I don't think Jalen starts, but when you're talking about allotment of reps during the week or during the preparation, you definitely have to make sure, that both quarterbacks are ready, because we have seen the one knock on Tua so far, in my opinion, is his durability, and he seems to take hits, and sometimes he seems to take unnecessary hits, trying to do too much. And we've started to see some durability issues. So I think that when it comes to allotment of reps during practice, I think that you'll probably see, you're not going to see a 50-50, but you might see a 60-40 or a 70-30 compared to where you were probably seeing 80-20 beforehand, just to make sure that Jalen would be ready to go in case Tua goes down again in the first round.
Right. We do have a shift here from what we thought we would see versus what we will see. Alabama, Oklahoma is going to be the Orange Bowl matchup. So this is going to be in Miami now. I thought it was predetermined. 1 versus 4 is in Dallas, 2 versus 3 in Miami. But that's not the case. That is not the case, according to something that I just saw. Notre Dame football confirmed it. Alabama football confirmed it. Alabama against Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. So they will be down in Miami playing outside instead of inside. So that advantage that Kyler Murray has at Jerry World won't matter because the game is in Miami. So Alabama, Oklahoma, December 29th. That changes just about increases the advantage for Alabama, no?
Yeah, that definitely
playing outside on grass.
Yeah.
Potentially weather. You think weather could be a factor here.
It's still gonna be
weather will be a factor.
It's still gonna be 75, 80 degrees, that's for sure.
The humidity favors Alabama potentially. The grass outdoors, I definitely think favors Alabama. They've simply played more games in that setting, and they're more built for that setting. This is not a field turf situation in Miami. This is a grass situation in Miami. So the conventional elements of football will apply here. I think that benefits Bama in a huge way. It benefits the big boys who like playing on grass a little bit more. Kev, you can confirm that. Yes. And it benefits the run-heavy teams. And we know Bama can become that. Bama has the opportunity to shift back and forth, and I believe they'll work on that much more now. Oklahoma is pretty one-dimensional. Trey Sermon is simply a change of pace. That running game is simply a change of pace for Oklahoma, especially after they lost Rodney Anderson early in the season. I thought that was a huge loss for Oklahoma.
If Rodney Anderson's healthy, we might even be talking different about because Rodney Anderson added a whole nother dimension to that offense.
Yeah, it would feel a little bit more like Bama, Georgia in terms of whichever running back group is better was going to win the game.
Yeah,
it could have felt like that.
I completely forgot about that. It's a big difference. I think, like you said before, I think the big matchup, in my opinion, is going to be the Oklahoma tight ends versus the Alabama linebackers. And can the Alabama linebackers play the type of game in pass coverage that they need to be able to stop the Oklahoma tight ends? They played the game they needed to stop the Georgia running backs. But now, can they play the type of game to stop the Oklahoma tight ends, which we have seen in the past? Good tight ends and stuff like that give Bama trouble. That have given Bama trouble this year in the passing game. So it'll be interesting to see. That's my early matchup to watch: the tight ends versus the linebackers.
Who's your key player for Bama who needs to step up? Which Alabama football player needs to have his best game against Oklahoma?
On the defensive side of the ball, Mac Wilson. and because he's gonna get the majority of that that pass coverage assignment with the tight ends. Obviously, they think enough of him. They put him back as the last defender last night for the jump ball in the end zone.
Right. There's no doubting his athleticism overall.
Yeah, so I think he's going to have to play his best game of the year. We saw the struggles against Georgia and Isaac Nada yesterday, so I think he'll have to play his best game. And then on offense, I'm going to go with a group, and I'll go with the offensive line. I think the offensive line is going to need to play a really good game because if you are having quarterback issues, the best way to get around quarterback issues is to have that solid run game. And I think that if Alabama's offensive line plays a great game, that running game, they can lean on that running game because, I mean, my 2-9 varsity football team 2 years ago that I coached could run the ball against Oklahoma right now. So those are my two position groups to watch: Mac Wilson on defense and the offensive line on offense.
Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, the Deontay Brown situation. I think you talk about a guy who prefers grass.
Really
that's the big key for me. Deontay Brown on grass, healthy. I think Bama's chances go up immensely. Should he not be ready to go, I think that could be a little bit more interesting. So the offensive line, I think, is definitely a point of contention and curiosity. But again, you would just assume with the time in between that the health issues, for the most part, maybe not Hall and Diggs, but everybody else, you would assume should be good to go there.
Yeah, you would think so. That's a long time. But turf toe is like I've said lots of times in the last couple of weeks with Deontay Brown's issue, the turf toe issue. I mean, it is a real issue. It is a really hard thing to overcome for offensive linemen and for big guys in general. So expect to see him light work, especially during this time where they're not going to be practicing, maybe for a week or so. They're just going to be working out and stuff like that, taking finals and all that stuff. So look for them to rest him, getting him into the treatment center and all that for probably I'd have him doing 2-a-days of treatment.
Yeah.
At this point,
just
to make sure. So
so Bama, Oklahoma. I think some key guys just off the top of my head. Obviously, the quarterback situation, depending on health, that goes without saying. Shyheim Carter, Dylan Moses for me, I think, and Mac Wilson, you throw him in there too. Just the middle defenders who aren't safeties for Bama. So Shyheim Carter in the nickel, Mac Wilson, Dylan Moses there at inside linebacker. I think those are key matchups because you're talking about potentially spying Kyler Murray. The good news here, Bama has the athletes to do it from the linebacker position. Doesn't mean it's going to work every time, but even if you look at the Deshaun Watson teams Alabama faced and how they had linebackers to combat that, I think this group more athletic in terms of spying a guy like that compared to the Reuben Foster-led linebacker group. Reuben much better downhill, I think, than both of these current Alabama linebackers, but in space, running, change of direction, I think this group is more suited to deal with a Kyler Murray. And then Shyheim Carter, who's been great for Alabama lately, I think is going to have his hand in the Grant Calcaterra coverage a little bit before it gets to the linebackers and the safeties. Deontay Thompson, Xavier McKinney, I think will have to be on their A game, not only in dealing with the tight end, who may be one of the top 2 or 3 Bama has seen all year, but also aiding in the potential spying and attempt to box in of Kyler Murray. I think that whole middle group of the defense beyond the defensive line will be very critical in this matchup. And then on the other side, I mean, these Alabama receivers, nobody got a ton of catches, a ton of balls their way yesterday, but you still saw the flashes. Ruggs, Waddle, Judy, Devontae Smith's another guy who you would presume would be fully healthy. That group, along with Irv Smith, against that Oklahoma secondary, regardless of the quarterback for Alabama, is a monster advantage. The Oklahoma secondary simply isn't good. It's very, very simple to look at. Man-to-man, zone schemes as a unit, the group is not great. And to make matters worse for the Oklahoma defense's side of the conversation, not great pass rushers either. So this entire matchup, I think it begins with that Kyler Murray and Oklahoma offense, because can they keep up? Usually that's the question everyone's asking of Alabama, or excuse me, of Oklahoma's opponent. Usually everyone's like, can School X keep up with Oklahoma, whether it's Texas, Oklahoma, TCU, etc. in the Big 12? Can they score with Oklahoma? In this matchup, regardless of the quarterback, it will become, can they score with Bama? Can they play with Bama offensively? And I think that's where the scouting reports and the predictions have come throughout this season. Can Georgia, Oklahoma, anybody, name your school, LSU, A&M, Auburn, anybody Bama's faced, can they get to 30? Because Bama's gotten to 30 every time, except for what, 2? And those were 2 shutouts. So can they get to 30? We would think Oklahoma has a chance to get to 30 just about as well as anybody, but Bama has exceeded that point just about every single game this year, including 35 against Georgia, which we all would assume has a better defense than Oklahoma. So the conversation still begins there. Can these teams keep up with Alabama offensively? It's kind of new, kind of different to talk about, but for me, that's really where the conversation begins. A couple of comments in. Trey Sermon's a great running back. I agree, DJ, but I don't think he could be a 30-touch guy. He doesn't hurt you in the passing game like DeAndre Swift, who you just faced. He's nothing that Bama hasn't faced prior in this season in terms of his skill set. And again, it's one-dimensional. It's just him. Rodney Anderson is not there. There's no change of pace. There's no splitting carries. There's no staying healthy either in terms of multiple guys for Alabama to face there at the running back position. So this will be obviously a big key in the game. I think you have to make it. Oklahoma has to come out balanced. They have to present the running game. Doesn't mean you got to rely on it, but they got to present the running game to Alabama, because if Nick Saban knows you're one-dimensional, it's hard to beat them. Remember, Clemson had a good running game in those years. Wayne Gallman was a good back. Others have been good backs against Alabama, a steady back, and a guy who blocked, which is important, and caught balls out of the backfield. I don't know if Trey Sermon is Wayne Gallman at the collegiate level. I think he has a higher NFL ceiling because he's a downhill one-cut cat, but in terms of the overall skill set, the three-down skill set, I don't think he's there at this point. So that's just a dimension of the game that I think leads to another advantage for Alabama. And again, it's on grass now. All this talk we assumed was in Dallas, it's in Miami now. So I think the advantage for Bama is boosted just a little bit more. So there's the playoff matchups really quick. Alabama, Oklahoma in Miami, Clemson, Notre Dame in Dallas. And I think it sets up for what we've said all year. Alabama, Clemson, Santa Clara. Let's see it happen. We're going to let you guys run there. We appreciate you hanging out. We just wanted to stay on and kind of see the show as it unfolded and just spend some time with our people, our subscribers, our members. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. For producer Kev, I'm John Garcia Jr. We'll see you this week at CABC, crimsonandbluechips.com, Bama Online, 24/7 Sports, CABC Pod, wherever you want to consume it. CABC is there. Hashtag CABC to be a part of the conversation. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Enjoy your Sunday. God bless. Garcia out.